Alright, in this video, I'm going to show you a very simple and powerful way to create chord progressions using power chords in any of the modes that we've been playing with. So for this example, I'm going to start with A, okay? So I'm going to head to the A note right here, and we're actually always going to do this off of the low E string, okay? We're never actually going to play this off of any other string. I mean, you might be able to do this with the A string if you really wanted to, but I don't see too much of a reason to be doing that. So anyway, let's go ahead and start here with A. So first I'm going to play the A letter pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then with the pinky, I'm going to head up to the G over here and the A over here. So again, this is... Alright, so I'm just playing the pattern, and then I'm moving my pinky up to the 7th note and then to the 8th note. Because as you know, the letter pattern is only 6 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So where's the 7 and the 8? Well, you could go to the next string, but not for this, not for doing the power chords. We want to move up the string as we do this. 1, 2, 3, 4 is always going to be on the next string, and then 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is the same. We want to have a strategy that we can apply in the same way, like every single time that we do something, like we do scales, when we do chords, we all want these things to be, meshing together in the same way. We don't want to have a different system to do chords as we do when we're doing scales, because then it's going to be kind of confusing. We want the system to be the same when we do chords as when we do scales. Okay, so after you've played the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, what you're going to do is just play power chords off of every single one of these notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Pretty simple, right? Alright, great. So now what we want to do is just basically jam with these chords that we have available. If you want to do it backwards, just like that. Now make sure that you do not go up one string only. So like this. Even though it sounds the same way, right? The letter pattern says that you need to go to the next string for number 4. So make sure that you go to the next string for number 4, and that you don't go to the next string for number 7, but you continue up the same string, okay? It's very important to do that. So I'm going to make a little chord progression off A minor. It's super easy. Here we go. There we go. Some easy stuff you can do in A minor. It sounds pretty cool. It sounds like A minor. All right. So now what we need to do is repeat this for all of the different letter patterns. So I'm going to go to C. I'm going to do the same thing. First, we start with the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Just to see where the notes are. Then we do the pattern, or the power chords. And we do it backwards. And then we start jamming. All right, there we go. Easy, right? Okay, let's do this off of the D note right here. Sorry. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and now we do the power chords. I'll do a little jam. there we go. Another easy chord progression in D Dorian, okay? And it's very important to understand that the sixth is different from the sixth in A minor. Alright, that's what makes it Dorian versus minor. Okay, now we're going to do it off E. Now on E, I actually like to start over here at the low E, because I don't like playing off the high E. So I'm going to go to the low E, the 0. I'm going to do the power chords from here. So 0, 1, 3, next string 4, 5, 6, 7, and the 8. It might be a little bit difficult to do this, so you can kind of do it up here just to sort of see what's going on. And then just try to match the notes down here. This is a 0, a 1, a 3, a 0, a 2, a 3, a 5, and a 7. 7 is the 8th note in the that's another E. Okay, so now the power chords. Going backwards. And there we have it. When I do these the E and the A, I use just kind of 2 fingers, just up like that. Otherwise, it's just a power chord. So E, F, G, next string A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, now let's do some jamming. Thing about the Phrygian is that we have this minor second power chord right here. The E to the F, the 1 or the 2 is a minor second. It sounds really intense, really evil, right? That's the cool thing about Phrygian. So let's move on to the Lydian at this point. The only difference between major and Lydian is the 4th. It's an augmented 4th. Pretty cool sounds. We're going to do again the power chords at this point. You can see this whole exercise is really going to get you the ears, your ears to hear the sound of each one of these modes by themselves. Also, if you do the octaves exercise where you just use the letter pattern in 3 different octaves over some backing tracks, that's another way to really get the sound of these modes in your ears so that you can choose which mode you like the most, which modes are you going to jam in the most. I don't really like Phrygian that much, or sorry, Lydian that much, because it's kind of difficult to make it sound good. It's kind of a difficult key. You know, I prefer using Dorian really well. Dorian and a little bit of Phrygian is pretty cool. Mix of Lydian is probably one of my favorite majors. I don't really like the key of major, and the minor key is really good as well. So for me, my favorites are minor, Phrygian, Dorian, actually in the order Dorian, minor, then Phrygian, mix of Lydian, you know, things like that. Anyway, so let's head into the power chord progressions here that I could do with Lydian. stuff there. All right, and the final one is going to be G Mixolydian. The only difference between major and Mixolydian is that the 7th is flattened. So now we're going to do the power chords 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and a little bit of jamming. Pretty awesome. That sounds a little bit different than when we did it in major. All right, so let's talk about some tips on how you can actually make all these modes sound really good. Okay, because when you try to jam, for example, in the key of F Lydian, all right, how are you going to make it sound like it's really F Lydian? Because most of the time when you're jamming in these chords, they're all the same notes, they're all the same chords. So what distinguishes the difference between A minor to C major to F Lydian, D Dorian, what really distinguishes all of this? It's the root. All right, so when you're playing in A minor, the root is A. And you always want to come back to the A note. And the A note feels like home plate. The A note feels like home. The A note feels like, I like to talk about this, the solar systems, okay, the galaxy. Basically, you have the Earth and the Sun, okay, and the Earth and the Sun are the most important planets, right? The Earth is where we live on, and the Sun is the center of the universe. So think of, the Earth and the Sun as being the relative major and minor. So that's like the A and the C, okay? So the A is the Sun, the C is Earth. Something like that. It could be either or. It doesn't really matter. So it's pretty easy for us to imagine that like all the planets rotate around, the Earth, or all the planets rotate around the Sun. I know it's kind of silly to think that all the planets rotate around the Earth, but it's just an example. Okay, it's just an analogy. So now what we have to think about is all the other planets, right? Jupiter. Let's say F Lydian is the Jupiter planet, okay? And now what we have to do in order to make F Lydian really sound like F Lydian is we have to take all the planets and force them to rotate around Jupiter. Okay, so they're not rotating around the Sun anymore. They're not rotating around the Earth anymore. Those two planets, they're now forced to rotate around Jupiter. And now Jupiter... Now Jupiter really feels like it's home. Do you notice now the F, it sounds like I'm playing in the key of F. So I forced the F to become the center of the solar system. F, Jupiter, is now the center of the solar system, and all the planets are rotating around Jupiter as being the F chord. So how am I achieving this? Well, 3 ways. The first way is I'm repeating the F chord many, many, many times. Repeating the F chord a million times there, okay? I'm always coming back to the F as many times as possible to just continuously force the F to become the center of the solar system. The second way is to play the low F and the high F. And when I do that, I sort of force your ear, I squeeze your ear into a pitch range where the maximum note is F and the lowest note is F. The highest note is F, the lowest note is F. Therefore, your ear only hears this distance, right? And it really forces that F is definitely like the range. You're going from F to F, and you're not going higher and you're not going lower. I mean, you could, but this is kind of it's just really a great way to force the ears to play the low F and the high F, and you just sort of stick within that 2 ranges. You can go lower a little tiny bit and come back to F. You go higher a little tiny back and come back to F. But as long as the F is continuously played a lot, it's very easy to make it sound like home base, like to make it sound like the center of the universe. As you do there, F, F, and F. Okay, and the other way to make, the third way to make the F really sound like the center of the universe is to play 2 powerful chord progressions, the 5 to 1. Okay, so here's the 1, and we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So here's going to be the 5 chord. Okay, again, we're just counting up the notes of the letter pattern. So 1, 2, 3, 4 on the next string, and then the 5. So in this case, 5 is C. Okay, so to play the 5 to 1, this is a C to the F. And that, as you can see, it feels really powerful. It's like, it sounds really nice. It feels like it really forces the F to the center of the universe. And the other great way is to use the 7th chord, which is a very similar, functions in a very similar way. So here's the F, the 7th chord would be E in this particular case. And as you can see, it's like, da-na-na-na-na. It like really just like finishes the chord progression in your favor. 7, 5. That's really cool, right? Here's this 8. And as you can see, if I play 7 to 8, it feels like I'm finishing the chord progression, and it forces the center to be F. Okay, and if I do not do these 3 strategies, if I don't repeat the F chord a lot, if I don't play the low to high F, and if I don't do a nice 5 to 1 cadence or 7 to 1 cadence, if I don't do that stuff, then all these things are gonna sort of like, your ear is gonna gravitate towards A minor as being the center. It's gonna say, hey, the sun should be the center of the universe. The C chord, it'll gravitate towards A and C because those are the relative majors and minors. So if you don't use these strategies, it's not really going to sound quite right. It's going to sound like I'm just playing in A minor, or I'm just playing in C major, and it's not going to sound quite like F Lydian, okay? So that's why it sounds really, really sounds like I'm playing in these particular modes when I'm playing these power chord progressions. And then, you know, you may struggle with this at first. It may not really sound quite like the key, okay? It may just kind of sound a little bit like you're playing the same chord. So you really have to force these root chords to become the center if you really want this to sound good. But anyway, this is a really easy way to make chord progressions using the letter patterns, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson.